Hey, what's up guys? Nick the Informative Fisherman here. I've recently been asked a question. I've been asked before in the past, and guys are like, dude, what's the deal with the braid instead of a swivel going to your hook? Well, what happens is if you have braided line going to a hook, it can rotate around like 5 or 6 times depending on how long you make the loop, so the fish loses all the leverage of shaking a bait off. The reason why I didn't want to go into this with you guys, it's a complicated technique, and I will show you how to do this. Yes, but Savage Gear has recently simplified the process, and I'm going to show you that as well. So what you're going to notice, it's the same size 1/0 hook on this 7-inch glide bait I have right here. You could do this on crankbaits, jerk baits, and you'll see right there on that jerk bait I have all 3 treble hooks tied on with braid. Though I'm probably getting ready to switch those over to the Savage hooks. These are Mustad short shank hooks right here. I've been with Mustad forever. They don't make a braided hook, so what I've done is I've tied braid, and I'll show you how to tie this little trick to the eye instead of a split ring connecting to the hook point. Therefore, I'm lightening the glide bait. I can make that dropper to my hook as long as I want it, to where I can use a short shank hook, therefore greatly decreasing the weight of my bait. I can also do that on a square bill to where the buoyancy of the bait will lift faster if I want to deflect off of cover or structure. It's a very huge advantage you get by having this, because even if they manage to hook both hooks to themselves, they can rotate multiple times before they get caught in a bind, pulling the hook free of that fish. Now, what these are is the Savage Gear hooks. These are braid loop hooks on top. It's like 100-pound braid on top of these hooks right here. Take your hook off, put these on the split ring, problem solved. You don't have to do the fancy loop. Let me do the fancy loop and show you. Bear with me, I have shaky hands. I was born with essential tremors. You'll survive, just watch what I'm doing. So I went ahead and cut that front hook off for you. Now, if I'm doing a bait that I'm pulling extremely hard on, like a big swim bait, I'm gonna use up to like 65 or 80-pound braid. 65 is usually as heavy as I go, but if I'm using like a 10-inch glide bait, I'm probably gonna go with 80. Down to my smaller crankbaits or jerk baits, I'm gonna use 30-pound braid. And it doesn't matter, it doesn't need to be a special braid. I'm using the P-Line X braid. You can do it. So one thing, when you get started, you wanna pull off around 2 feet of line. 24 inches, and yes, this can get pricey. This is also why I suggest using the Savage Gear hooks, because you do go through a lot of braid doing this. I would only suggest doing it if you have that particular bait dialed in and you want to make sure you hook and land more fish. This is an expert level thing. If you're fishing a tournament and you know the bait they're eating, definitely do this. All right, so I've cut off the 2 feet of line. I'm strictly gonna just match the ends up like so, okay? Just making sure they're about the same length here. Yada, yada, yada. Edward shaky hands in the house. There you go. Now I'm just gonna crimp that over on the end. And this is basically the same, like, it's very similar to doing a Palomar knot. Let me find the hook now. So now my line's free, my hook's right here, my bait's sitting in between my legs. I'm gonna push that loop through the hook, so where now it's resting on there, like so. Now I'm gonna push that loop in there. So now the hook and the bait and everything is dangling on there. I'm gonna go once over, twice over, just like a double Palomar, and I'm gonna fasten that bad boy down and give it 1 or 2 hits like that. You wanna jerk your braid, it's critical. You wanna make sure it fastens. This is where you're gonna adjust the size of your drop right there. So I try to match up how big a normal split ring would be. I think that helps for the overall design of the bait. They're used to the hooks dangling off that far when a bait designer's doing it, so then you're good to go. Now I'm gonna do the exact same thing. I'm gonna sit it back down so I can work with it easy here. And I'm gonna go over 2 more times. 1, 2, and I'm gonna fasten it down. I'm gonna give a couple jerks. Now from here, you have that length. You're gonna cut it real short, okay? You know, just like a normal tag in. And instead of being done at that point, when you cut those tag ins real short, take a lighter and blot the end. put that little lighter up to the tips of that braid. It's gonna curl it up. It'll make sure that braid can't escape itself. Just like that, I cut it real short. You can see those right there. A little lighter is gonna blot those. It's impossible to come free. You have a very strong hook that the fish can no longer leverage off. So now with the Savage hooks, it's as easy as take your hook off of the split ring, pop these bad boys out and toss it on just like any other hook. The really nice part about these is they're already very short shank. You can see the braids coming off right here to where the hook is lighter. What's gonna happen with a lighter hook too, when a fish comes to inhale your bait before mouthing it, the lighter hooks tend to turn towards that fish. A lot of the things that you give up with a lighter hook is pulling power. So where if you don't have maximal pulling power without bending a hook out, and that's a 1x strength hook, so they are still very light and strong, but if you're pulling like crazy trying to wrench them out of heavy cover, it's best that you have a hook that can twist around, you know, 4 or 5 times. These Savage Gear hooks, I can get about 4.5 to 5 full rotations out of them, and you're going to notice your baits are a lot more buoyant. Your glide baits are a much more slow sink version with these hooks on. Just almost like having a swivel on there, guys. A lot of freedom. They lose all that leverage. Try that trick next time you're out, guys. Guarantee you're gonna put more fish in the boat. Make sure to follow me, Informative Fisherman, on all the popular social media channels. Later.